everybody. Thank you for tuning into the Photobug. And I want to welcome back with us fantastic sports photographer. We got Jeff Cable. Jeff, thank you so much for returning, coming back and talking to us.
Yeah, no, glad to be back.
Oh, we're really glad to have you. And the reason we wanted you back this time is that you just returned from Milan from the Olympics.
Yeah, Olympics '9. Yeah, crazy.
And for those of you that didn't get your daily newsletter, I felt like I was actually part of the Olympics. I had kind of a secret inside look into what you were doing and the views that you had, and I really appreciate you doing that.
Yeah, it's funny because the blog, when I started it at the first Olympics in 2008, it was literally, I think, 8 readers. It was like my mom, my brother, and then I think this time around it was over 500,000 readers. And so I was blogging every day, and that was the consensus I was getting from people. People would write to me and say, "Hey, this is cool. I feel like I'm there." And so that inspires me to, like, every Olympics to just up my game and try to write more and share more behind the scenes. And I was doing Instagram stories, which I've never done before, and just trying to, like, give people lay of the land, and try to give it share that experience of what it's like to be in this pressure cooker, 18-hour days for 3 weeks straight, and what it's like to deal with everything from the highs, the lows, the politics, everything. It was fun, though. It was cool to share with everybody.
Well, maybe you could bring some of our viewers in up to date, because I'm sure many of our viewers didn't get your daily blog, and I hope next time that they do. And we want to put your website and information down here because you also lead photo tours, isn't that correct?
I do, yeah. It's kind of interesting. So people ask me, like, I have 3 specialties. This is very strange. I do the Olympics, I do photo tours, and then I do a lot of personal events like bar and bat mitzvahs and things here in the Bay Area. But for me, it's the passion, the love of photography that kind of groups everything together. And it's interesting because a lot of the things I do at the Olympics, I have a 6-minute deadline that I'm turning images around to the team. I use that same kind of principle when we're on doing photo tours, whether it's camera settings or workflow. And so I teach people, like, when we go down to Costa Rica or to Africa or wherever we go, okay, you don't want to go home with 80,000 images. It's just too much, right? So culling through every night when we get back to the resort is always a great thing, right? Because you can pare through and say, here's all this stuff I don't need. Here's the peak of action. Again, no different than the Olympics. So I'm looking for, if it's, a hockey game and I've got the puck coming right at the goalie or whatever, that's a shot I want. But the preceding shots where the puck isn't in the frame or you can't see the puck, maybe I don't want those. And so I'll get rid of those. And so I try to cull through I have to at the Olympics, but I use that same principle in photo tours. Like, a lot of times we'll come back from shooting all day, and by the time we meet for dinner, I'm showing people my favorite 6 retouched images that I've airdropped over to my phone from what we shot earlier in that day. And so I try to inspire people to shoot better, but also, have a faster workflow. And I do teach things like, how do you retouch and take a good image and make it great, right? How to finish it, which we can't do at the Olympics because they don't allow retouching. So right. That part's a little different. Yeah.
Well, what we thought we would do is have you start what it took, at least with Milan, what it took to be an Olympic photographer, starting with the fact you had a long, long walk to this stadium.
Yeah, it's interesting. The last couple, really the last 3 Olympics, although Tokyo we had to deal with COVID, so they don't want people sharing buses and stuff. So the last 3 Olympics, they've relied on public transportation, and they just give us an unlimited public transportation card, or in the case of Milan, it was a QR code on our phone, and we could just bleep into any train station or whatever. But which sounds great, right? Like in Paris, they're like, oh, we have very good public transportation, just use that. Same thing in Milan. But what they don't factor in is we're carrying 40 pounds of gear, that's worth 30, 40 grand on trains where people are getting pickpocketed. And when you get you may have to walk half a mile to a train station. Then you're going upstairs, downstairs, upstairs, downstairs, upstairs, downstairs, just to get to one train stop or platform. And then you do the same thing out to leave the station, and you're hoofing all this gear. And so I think I walked 168 miles in Milan in the 3 weeks I was there. In Paris, it was like 200 miles of walking. So
Jeez.
it's crazy. Yeah, it's just LA in LA 2028, which is be the next Olympics. They're using electric buses. I know this for a fact because the client that I just shot for this weekend, a personal event, the client is actually the one who's on the board of directors of the company making the electric buses for the games. So he's giving me all the inside scoop. I'm like, thank God, because when we take a press bus, they'll take us from the press center right to the press entrance of that venue. And if you look at like Milan and Paris, there are many times where you get off the train and you still have a mile or a mile and a quarter walk just to get to the press entrance of the building. And so you couldn't, like, people were saying to me, like, why are we only shooting 2 events a day? I'm like, you're lucky to get 2 events a day. They're so spread out. And in Milan, the one ice hockey arena was about an hour and a half on the other side of town from the other ice hockey arena. So if there were 2 games that were coinciding, there's no way.
No way to get. And you were talking about pickpockets, but you had another photographer there had his room broken into and lost. Did he ever get his equipment back?
He did get his stuff back. It was funny because he texted me in a bit of a panic, as I would be more than a panic. He was actually he was freaking out. Not only did they take his camera equipment, but they took his laptop, his backup drives, so he had no images. And in that conversation with him, actually a conversation he had with the hotel staff, he realized that he had air tags in his bag. And he was able to locate with the police where that stuff was. It was about 3 blocks away from the hotel. And they did go arrest the guy. It was a hotel employee who had taken it, and he got everything back but his wallet. But I said to him, you're not backing up to the cloud. Like, what I do is I have backup SSDs everywhere. This is the ProGrade SSD here. This is 4 terabytes. So I'm backing up on these, and I've got these, one in my locker at hockey, one in my locker at maybe at the main press center. So I've got these things everywhere. And so, like, even the last day of the Olympics, or actually it wasn't the last day, it was a couple days before the last day, and I had a half day off, which never happens. I was meeting friends for dinner, and the first thing I did is I backed up everything onto that SSD, threw it in my pocket, and then went to dinner. That way, God forbid, if someone broke into my hotel room, I had everything up to the last second that I'd shot. And so it is just like, you have to be really cognizant of your safety, where your equipment is, how it's stored. I was putting all my favorite images onto the cloud, and actually I've got a server here, and I move stuff to my server from Milan. So I'm really careful to have those images backed up, because if they steal my camera, my lens, I don't really care. I mean, I care, of course.
Yeah.
But if they steal my images or my laptop, then I'm really in trouble. So my MacBook Pro, I guard that with my life. Now, I'm very lucky because Apple takes very good care of me. If they stole my MacBook Pro, like in Milan, Apple would have arranged a new one for me within an hour. But you still have to reinstall all your software. And that would be a pain.
Yep.
So, yeah, you have to be aware of all of that stuff when you're shooting. And that's true almost anywhere. Again, I only go to safe places on my photo tours because I don't want people to have to deal with that. But the Olympics, they throw us wherever we're going.
You don't have a choice.
Right.
And I will mention that too. I use the AirTags in all my equipment as well. So there's a good tip that the people.
It is. The other thing I use, and I've got it in the other one. There's these credit card size. It's not by Apple, but it's. And I'm trying to remember the name of it. But it's on my blog because I blogged about this. But they're credit card size. They're that thin, and they can be recharged on the same charger you recharge your phone on. But I slip those under the lining of my think tank bags. So if someone were to look through your bag for an air tag, yes, they might find an air tag, but they're sure not
I'm
going
not
to
going to
find
find that.
spot,
Yep.
spot minders is the name of the
What
card.
is it?
Spot minders.
Spot minders. Oh, that's good.
And I have those in my wallet. I have them embedded in my camera bags. And trust me, I have a hard time finding them just to recharge them because I've been,
They're so well
I-
hidden.
yeah, yeah.
And you also had mentioned in the blog that the first time you went to one of the hockey stadiums that it was just covered in black plastic.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things that the Olympics has changed over the years is they're trying to use more for sustainability reasons, trying not to build massive stadiums for one-time use kind of thing.
Right.
So in Milan, the one hockey arena was literally in a warehouse, like it was like in the same type of place like that you see any convention center. So you walked into this empty warehouse, and you walk in and there are a couple like places to buy food, and then there's just this plastic. It literally looked like Glad bags that had been like just brown plastic. And I'm like, what's that? And they go, that's the arena. And I'm like, what? And so I go through the little strips of plastic, and you walk in, you're like, oh, I'm in a hockey arena. It was really weird. And the thing I thought is, couldn't they have at least made the plastic prettier, or Olympic rings or something? Once you're inside, it wasn't bad, but because it was in a warehouse type thing, there wasn't enough ceiling space to hang a scoreboard. So normally if I'm shooting, let's say from this corner of the rink, I can't see all the way to the far side. So I'm looking up the scoreboard, like how they do. Are they coming toward me? Okay, they're coming toward me. I'll get back ready to shoot. You couldn't do that. And so that was really bizarre, and very frustrating because you just couldn't see the score, how many shots on goal. You couldn't see any of the stats they're throwing up, nothing. They had a couple boards that were facing the audience, but they're off into the rafters on the side. Nothing in the middle. So once we went to the main arena, which happened, toward usually all the prelim games and the women's prelim games are at the smaller arena. Then they moved to the big one. And once we moved to the big one, it was much better because then we had a scoreboard and a much more true hockey arena to work with.
And you also have limited choices where you can stand, isn't that correct? Didn't I
So,
understand there was a lottery
yeah.
system that...
Well, it's not a lottery. It's what they do is, so they only allow a certain amount of photographers to do what's called FOP, or field of play. And so again, if you take hockey and you've got plexiglass going around, you can only have so many photographers. They only had, I'm gonna guess, maybe 40 or so photo positions on glass. So anybody who showed up and wanted to shoot hockey, if you weren't shooting, like I shoot for USA Hockey, so I was guaranteed a spot. You might be shooting from up in the public area in the rafters or in the stands. And so for me, I would get to the arena. I mean, I got to the arena before the games even start, and I introduced myself to the venue manager, photo manager, and say, hey, you'll get to know me because I'm going to be here every day. And then I would get there a good hour and a half before any game, just to go out into the arena, walk around the plexi and try to find where's the clean area plexi. Because remember, as the games progress, there's more scuff marks coming through the plexi. They're trying to polish it, but they do the best they can. But there's some areas where it's a photo position, but you have got this giant scuff mark from a hockey stick. You can't shoot through that. So I would get there early. I would talk to my contact at USA Hockey. Okay, which way are we shooting twice offensively? So I knew which side of that I wanted to be on, and then I'd scout, that area, that side of the arena to figure out clean plexi. Up until like the medal games, I can actually dump my camera gear out there and block a spot, which I did. Once you get to medal rounds, though, they don't allow that. So if anybody leaves their stuff there, that they'll tell you, go out there, collect it, and come back. But it is kind of a lottery system in when they let you, for medal rounds, when they let you go onto the ice or around the glass. And so if you're a team photographer, they will give us preferential treatment along with the pool. The guys from Associated Press and Getty who may have an assigned position, we can get out there early. So for the medal rounds, I'm at the arena a good 2 to 3 hours early sometimes.
Good. And I'm going to ask my Canadian friends to put their hands over their ears, but what a thrill it must have been for both teams to win against Canada.
Yeah, it was the women, you almost expect them to play against Canada because the woman, it's almost USA Canada every time. But that doesn't mean we always win. That going to overtime, that was crazy, and really fun because I work with the woman, from before the games even start. I'm shooting with them, and they're not used to skating in front of tens of thousands of people, so to them it's such a thrill. The guys are all NHL guys. They're used to the nightly, having that many people watching them, and like when we do the team photo for men, they just want to get it over with. The women, they love it. They just revel in it.
I can see that in the pictures.
Yeah, and we had a lot of fun. And so when the women won, it was amazing because that was the first win. And going to overtime, it was just scary because I really thought in the second period we're not going to win this game. And then it was a couple minutes left in the game when Hilary Knight scored that tying goal. And then once we scored the tying goal, I thought, oh, we're going to win this. And then when we won, it was crazy and mayhem. And that's the pressure then goes on because the minute you win gold, we have to run into a position where they're going to allow certain photographers past the plexi through the penalty box onto the ice. So they lay out like a carpet for us to stand on, and we're shooting, without any plexi, which is nice. And so you're trying to decide like how much of the celebration am I going to shoot here, and when the hell do I leave and run and get over there to get through the plexi. And then after that, the team was texting me, hey, we want you in the locker room. Well, my credentials don't get me into the locker room. And I'm like, hey guys, and they're like, nope, we want you, we'll get you. And they came out and escorted me in, which is a whole nother story. But they got me in. That was really fun because they were just having a party. And the funny thing was, I shot the locker room stuff, and then I said, when's the team party? And they go, now. I go, tonight? This is at 1 a.m. I go, when's the party? 1 to 3:30 in the morning. And I'm like,
remember that on your blog.
Yeah, and I'm like, holy cow. So I went on the team bus with the ladies. That was actually, they were having a great time. And so I went on the bus. I ended up getting an Uber at like 2 something because I had to shoot the men's game the next day. I couldn't be out that late. So it was fun just to hang with them and party with them and then get out of there. But then when the men went to overtime, I was like, oh my God, don't do this again to me, because the stress level was just crazy. And again, when they won, it was equally awesome to, for Team USA and USA Hockey specifically to have an Olympics like that, which has never happened, was cool. And to be on the glass for both games. I think about like 1980 and the Miracle on Ice and what it would be like to be there. So to be at this Miracle on Ice for both teams, it's pretty special. I feel very lucky.
You got a pretty good picture of the guy. The poor guy got his teeth knocked out.
Jack Hughes. Yeah, I got a great shot, good blood. And all that.
Although it didn't seem to bother him at all.
No, actually, I think he's had so much dental work done. I think he's got a bridge, and I don't think they even care. Those guys are crazy, though.
Yeah. Grant that. Now, do you have a favorite event that when you go there, besides hockey? I know you like you also photographed the skating events.
Yeah, I did skating. I did short track and long track speed skating. That's all there was in Milan. So usually when I do an Olympics, I try to cover as many different sports as I can, and I like shooting anything new. I'm really ADHD and ADD, and I like something new. So I like a new challenge. And in Milan, the transportation from Milan to like Cortina, it could be 6-7 hours each way via buses and trains and everything else. There's no way I could go from Milan to Cortina and get back to Milan to shoot the hockey game the next day. And so I didn't even try. But normally, like at most Olympics, I love shooting anything different. So like in Summer Olympics, I shoot for USA Water Polo mainly, but I love shooting equestrian or even like rock climbing, which I'd never shot before. in winter, shooting bobsled or skeleton, curling, stuff we don't do here in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun. And trying to shoot it creatively. That's what kind of fills my cup.
And no breakdancing this time. That's
not this. Actually, in Paris, breakdancing was a one and done.
Right. Well, I understand they dropped it. Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, like having been there, I kind of get it. It was a one and done. It was kind of weird.
Yes, I thought so too.
Yeah.
So, talk a little bit about challenges that you have as far as, besides the long walk and the transportation issues. Is there something that if we have some photographer out there that's aspiring to be an Olympic sports photographer?
The hardest part is I get emails probably every week saying, how do I become an Olympic photographer? And, the problem is, if you look at the amount of credentials that are out there, there's so few. Like even in the U.S., which is arguably one of the largest representatives at any Olympics, we still may only get 60 credentials. And you've got all the newspapers. So you've got, USA Today, and you've got, the New York Times, and you've got all those guys. You have magazines, and you have all these other reporters. So I think I'm the only independent photographer for Team USA. Mm-hmm. And people always ask me, well, how did you get that? Well, I mean, that story is about an hour and a half long, but really I had the right contacts to get myself in. And it took me years just to get that. And so, I always tell people the best way to do it is build your portfolio, work your way up from. My first sports I shot was when my kids were really little and they were a swim team, and I did swimming. And, I started shooting a swim team, which was really fun for me. And then other parents were like, hey, can you get a picture of my kid too? I'm like, sure. So I'm shooting that. Then I went from the swim team to, maybe doing some high school stuff as they went into high school. And then, if you want to shoot professionally, then you work your way up to collegiate level, and then collegiate level to either semi-pro or pro, and then work your way up. But I don't want to discourage people and say you'll never become an Olympic photographer, but at the same time, it's really, really hard to get there. And this is why, like, having done 9, I still treat every Olympics like it's the first one I've done. Like, I'm lucky to be here. I know I'm exhausted. I don't think I got to sleep before 2 a.m. any day I was in Milan, but you have to love it.
And it was that good Italian food too.
Yeah, unfortunately, I really didn't have much. I had maybe 3 or 4 good meals. Yeah, because it's the only time where I eat to fuel my body, not to enjoy a good meal. I did have that one half day off I did. I met with some friends of mine, actually one of the former owners of the San Jose Sharks. He and his wife were there, and we had a nice dinner. But I had a couple good pizzas. Other than that, I was eating venue food. And honestly, venue food is like, even in Milan, venue food was not very good.
I can imagine.
And so the breakfast at the hotel, so any media hotel, they're required to serve breakfast, and the breakfast was actually quite good. But yeah, I did not. It's so funny because I had one gelato on that half day off, and that was like 3 days, I think 2 or 3 days before the end of the games. So I really did not experience Italy to its fullest. I've been there before, but it's a different world. Like I tell people, you could almost drop the Olympics into any city, because we're just going to go venue to venue to venue to venue, back to a hotel, to venue to venue to venue, back to the hotel, and just rinse and repeat over and over. And so, like in Milan, I actually got off the wrong train station about one weekend, and I got off and I went up because I was hungry. I wanted to get something to eat. I'm like, oh, hey, I'm in downtown. There's the Duomo. Like, it was the first time I'd actually seen Milan, because my hotel was like out in the outskirts. And so, yeah, I was like, oh, wow, I'm in Italy.
Well, if somebody wants to break in, just, high school, Little League, whatever it is, what gear would you recommend that they bring to get the most out of that?
It's tough because, like, shooting the Olympics is actually cheating, right? We have the best athletes in the world. Yeah. We have perfect lighting. We have great backgrounds and colors. We're full of spectators who are really excited, so they're dressed up. And you shoot high school sports, you have really crappy lighting and terrible white balance. Mm-hmm. You have empty stands, or sometimes And I always tell people, I always joke about the fact that, like, I remember shooting a basketball game at a high school here, and there was a door open in the far side, open, so you had all this light spilling in, so that would be blown out, and so it's a challenge shooting, high school versus doing the Olympics is easier in many respects, but I did a night football game, and I tried using a variable aperture lens, so I'm Canon. I use the Canon R1. At the time, this was when I was, newer in photography. I was not using as good equipment, but I remember taking like a 100 to 400 lens that, ended at f6.3 or whatever it was at night on a night game at a high school that's not lit well. Forget it. You're at ISO 20,000 or something to get a shot. But if you're shooting swimming or water polo or something where it's during the day and you have good light, any long lens, it also depends on where you're standing. So if you're up close, you could use a 70 to 200. If you're doing something like volleyball and you're right at the edge of the volleyball, you could use a 24 to 70. And so there is no one size fits all. It depends on the sport you're shooting, and it depends on where you are. So one of the things I tell people is, if you're going to shoot, let's say, high school football, if you show up with a big lens and you tell the school, hey, I'll give you the images that I shoot, any of the good ones, they'll probably let you on the field. And so, all you can do is ask, right? And that helps. So, work your way in, do whatever you can.
And we just received a Zoom warning that we're running out of time here, so we want to
saw that.
Sure. Yeah, sorry about that.
Yep.
So, do you have any advice besides what you just gave us as far as photographer? And I also want to talk real quick before we get into that, your website and your upcoming photo tours.
Yeah, so website is just jeffcable.com, so jeffcable.com. And the blog can be accessed there. The blog can also be accessed just blog.jeffcable.com. And the photo tours, a lot of them are already booked full for this year. And then next year I just opened up some new ones. But yeah, we go to really amazing places. I go to Costa Rica 2 or 3 times a year down the rainforest.
My favorite place.
That's one of my favorite places, and it's also one of my most popular tours. But I'm also doing, Iceland is coming up. We're going to do Northern Lights. I'm very excited about that.
When are you going to be there?
You going to be there?
No, yeah, I'm being there. I'll be there in September. I'm leading a private tour.
Nice. That'll be fun. And I go to Peru. I go to Galapagos. I go all over the world. And you can see that at jeffcable.com. If you go to photo tours, it'll be listed there. My advice to people doing photography is really try to be creative, try to shoot differently. At the Olympics, I'm shooting with thousands of other photographers. So how do I try to shoot creatively and differently, especially if we're all shooting from the same position? And the other advice I give people is just because you take a good photo, don't think that will make you successful.
And real quick, gotta RAW versus JPEG.
What's that?
RAW versus JPEG.
Raw, everything raw.
Good.
Even at the Olympics, everybody assumes I'm shooting JPEG because I've got under a 10-minute deadline to get images to the team. I still shoot everything raw, and I want the best quality images I can get. I want every bit of data I can get out of every image. Good. So all raw.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah. No problem. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for letting me be here.
Thank you.
Hi, if you enjoyed this video, please go down here, subscribe.
Here.
There you are. Subscribe. Give us a comment. Even hit a like.
And if you want to be notified when we post new ones, hit the little bell down there too.
Yeah, ding ding.
Okay, that should do it. All right, well, we hope you enjoyed our video, and if you did, please go down there and hit the like button, and please subscribe to us.
That's right. Leave a comment too, that would be great.
Yeah, and if you want to be notified about future videos, hit the little bell too.
Ding.